Crimechurch, Mamata'a Story, Chapter 2, Irreversible Damage. Emmanuel is in his room at Oak to Ocean, in front of his private telly, sat up in bed with pillows behind his back. His snoring sounds like a pig grunting around a pig pen. It's making him unwell. By snoring, my husband is lining his breathing passages with deposits of carbon dioxide. His brain is so damaged he can't control his body. A sleepy old biker who wears leather and carries framed pictures of his gang has stolen Emmanuel's pudding while Emmanuel snores. It's the same routine every Wednesday. I squirt cologne on my man's pillowy neck, I rub moisturising lotion into his hands, crusty as toast, and I sing in his ear. I guide him to the van, we take him to choir. We sing in hope his brain will wake up. We sing out his sins. Today I pause. I'm not quite ready to walk into the room and sit down and stroke Emmanuel's hand. Positioned in the doorway, I can see the old biker man clinging to his blanket made of motorcycle paraphernalia. I shudder as I pass him. Emmanuel, my Emmanuel, he dabbled in danger a little bit. Dabbled is the word for it. He even brought those vile men to our house for tea and beer, but he was never a player, as these children here say. If you play, you are marked as eligible for violence, for assassination. As if to play with these big boys, you surrender your right to live. My people, we worship the Lord above. Only in Sesuklesi do we find our faith. Do we place our faith, that is. Emmanuel, he discovered this the hard way. When I found him, Emmanuel was soft as a blob of honey. My chongy boy had punched his father unconscious and didn't telephone 111. The brain bleed, it did irreversible damage. He can still recognize me. Emmanuel can still lift his fingers, revolve his head, but he tires within minutes. He is always exhausted, angry, confused, though perhaps he would have finished his life angry and confused regardless. Angry at himself for beating Chongi with a jug cord on his buttocks every week, confused about why the beatings, hitting our child square in the jaw like a grown man, confused about why these beatings were supposed to make Chongi fearful and responsible, but had the opposite effect as our boy grew larger and larger, far surpassing his father and me in height. I position a tasseled cushion under my bum. The curtains are brown velour. The books here are dusty. The television screen is small and round. Everything in this place could use a makeover. It's good to see you, Emmanuel. I fetch a mug of warm water, not too hot, just the right amount of cold. I take a hand towel and wet it. I begin to clear the hard toffee snot from around my man's lips and nose and eyes too. Emmanuel wakes and his eyes move more than any other part of his body. Tahine, he gasps. That exhausts him so much he has to pant. I pour fresh water into his lips. How was your day, baby? He just nods in answer. I know he watches New Zealand television series all day. He likes to spot the faces who sort of resemble him, though frequently Emmanuel lapses into fits of racist hatred. While his skin is dark and his hair black, my husband was born with pointy German cheekbones, thin lips, a sticky arty Roman nose like a beak, as well as ears like wing mirrors. Emmanuel always convinced himself his European blood made him more shrewd than everyone else on the docks in Nuku'alofa, where he drank and sang with strange Greeks, Ukrainians, and especially the Chinese sailors. He would come home drunk, bragging about how the Assams were so much cleverer than everyone else because of their Cantonese cunning. But that was the old Emmanuel Assam, before he took a blow to the head that shattered his brain, and now my Emmanuel sits there snoring like a teddy bear. I take the piece of paper I've prepared. I spread it on my lap. News for the confused. A little spark of laughter in my dreary trap day. I lie and tell Emmanuel that his son has completed his graduation at university. Emmanuel's eyelids shut as he nods, pictures it all taking place. I describe the gown, the trencher, the tie with hibiscus flowers printed on it, the canapes, the champagne. The stiff cardboard of the degree placed firmly in his hands by the Chancellor with burning cheeks. I'm a good Christian woman. Here I am, lying about my Chong's achievements just to make Emmanuel's face bend into a smile. And it works. Emmanuel doesn't remember Chongi coming home with a Spider-Man drink bottle which didn't belong to him. Emmanuel doesn't remember sitting Chong down on the front doorstep for a lecture, or Chong listening diligently to the lecture for a few minutes before bursting into laughter. Chongi's eyes were drunk, overtired, exhausted pink from endless criticism, a boy told off from dawn to dusk every day. Emmanuel doesn't remember taking the cord out from the kettle, wrestling Chong to pull down the boy's pants to whoop him, the shoving, the bellowing voices, the hot lungs. Emmanuel doesn't remember his son, eyes murky with tears, doesn't remember Chongi's heavy fist landing a blow to the skull which smashed Emmanuel against the kitchen wall like a thrown egg. I know my boy would have hung around, giggling, unafraid, just curious about the next development. And that's how I found my boy, with a jar of Nutella crooked under his arm, sucking chocolate goop from his fingers, watching his dad's IQ dissolve minute by minute as he crawled across the lino drooling spit while his brain dissolved. So, Chongi's doing really well and he misses you, your son does, I lied to my husband. He'll be by this week, I'm pretty certain. He'll bring a rugby ball, and you two can have some kicks, can't you, out on the grass? Chongi boy, Emmanuel gurgles. It was a shock for Emmanuel to come here 25 years ago and fail the test to enter the teacher college at the University of Canterbury, to go from dreams of prestige to having to cycle to Linwood each morning to repair lawn mowers. He got fed up. My Emmanuel did, and he confronted one of the ragged-sleeved, unshaven, jack-booted apes in the Lion Tavern in Lincoln Road. They had given Chongi a hiding in Hoonhay Park after he punched the referee during the season's league semi-final. He was just being overprotective after the referee gave me the insulting middle finger after I called out something silly onto the field. Emmanuel, he told the epitaph writers, the only person with the right to beat his boy was his father. They threw a glass jug, which tore his skull, put him on his knees. But Emmanuel, he walked out of that pub and he went home and he made it clear to Chongi boy what it would take to get ahead in this cold country. He convinced us all, just for half a year, that he could beat his son away from crime. Templars and epitaph writers harassed me after I told two 17-year-old members of the Templars Nazi motorcycle gang they were in breach of their probation requirements. They drove up onto our lawn the day after Chong had beaten his father senseless. There was a man named Blake something in the background, straddling his rumbling steed. After my Chongi boy used a metal railway sleeper from my garden to smash the visors of the helmets of two of the men to donk their idiot heads, they hopped off their bikes. One had a hammer, the other a shotgun with a... Good night, Emmanuel. I kissed the brow of my son's father. Our marriage has died in the real world, but I don't want Emmanuel to know it. His tongue falls out of his mouth. Getting his jaw open takes effort. He breathes out for 10 long seconds, breathes in. I worry he'd do bad, my boy, Emmanuel says. I worry he'd do bad. I can't think of a comforting response. Instead, I squeeze his hand. As I leave, passing by this Blake man, this biker, I pick up a cushion. Blake is slumbering, his throat billowing, distorting the tired, messy tattoos on his fat neck. The Godfather Part 2 is the open DVD case in front of him. I picture what it would be like to suffocate the feeble old mummy. I picture... God, I get carried away. Instead, I place the cushion on the man's lap as he snores in his lazy boy. Keep your enemy warm. It is the Christian thing to do.